Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mina. Today is Tuesday, June 29th, which means that today is the day that my most anticipated book of the year gets released. That is Survive the Night by Riley Sager, and I decided why not do a reading vlog of my experience reading this book, since it is the book that I am most excited for and have been waiting for this entire year. So that is what this vlog is going to be. I'm really excited. I actually do not have a physical copy of the book just yet. I was thinking originally of pre-ordering the book, and then I realized like a lot of times that I pre-order books, they don't actually come on release date. They come after release date, and I want to have this book as soon as I can. So I am planning to head over to Barnes & Noble to pick up a copy and to get started on reading it today. I am not reading anything right now. I made sure that I wasn't going to be reading anything so that I wouldn't have to stop whatever I was reading in order to read this one. So yeah, that is what this vlog is going to be. I'm really excited. Last year when Home Before Dark by Riley Sager came out, I didn't actually vlog my experience reading it, and I regret doing that because I had such a good time and such a good experience with that book that I wish that I captured my journey of reading it, but unfortunately I decided not to. So this year we are changing things, making amends, and I am going to vlog my experience reading this new Riley Sager book, and hopefully it will be as amazing as all of his previous books that I love and have read. So I'm gonna go head over to Barnes & Noble and do that. I also wanted to mention that I'm kind of in a bit of a time crunch with this book because Summerween begins this Friday on June 2nd, and I want to finish this book before I start my Summerween reading because it doesn't really fit with any of the prompts that Summerween is offering this year. So I figured I will just read this book as quickly as possible. I have 3 days to get it done, today, tomorrow, and Thursday before Summerween begins. I'm hoping I'll be able to do it because it's Riley Sager, and you know, when you love a book and you just read through it quickly. So we're hoping that that will happen, and then hopefully by Friday I will be able to begin my reading and vlogging for Summerween. So that is it for this clip right now. I'm gonna go eat something really quick, and then I'm going to drive to Barnes & Noble, hopefully pick up my copy, also hopefully pick up some books for Summerween. No idea what I'm gonna read for that yet, and I literally wanted to film a Summerween TBR today, and I don't even know what I'm reading for that week. So I'm just gonna go explore and see if I find anything there. If not, I will most likely be reading some books that I've had on my shelves for a while that will fit in with the Summerween prompts, but this video is not about Summerween. This video is about Survive the Night, and I will check in with you guys later when I finally have the book in my hands. Okay, I'm back from Barnes & Noble. I'm sorry I didn't take you guys in with me as usual. I'm just too nervous to pull out my camera in public places. I did end up getting Survive the Night. I'm so excited. I'm really disappointed in Barnes & Noble because they do not update their new release section very frequently. So the books that were in their new release section have been there since my last trip to Barnes & Noble, which was a few weeks ago. And obviously books get released every Tuesday, so I feel like they should be on top of that and update it more frequently, because I could not find Survive the Night. And then I was like, okay, maybe it's not in new release, maybe they put it in the back in just the fiction section or the mystery and thriller section. The mystery and thriller section, there was one copy of one Riley Sager book, not even this one. It was The Last Time I Lied, and they had nothing else. And then I was looking in general fiction, nothing, horror, nothing. And then I finally just fought back my social anxiety and went to the front, and I was like, hi, I'm looking for a book. And then they also have one person on the floor. I know that's not really it's nobody's fault, that's just a staffing issue, but they only have one guy on the floor and he was helping somebody else, so I had to go to the cashier, and then I was like, I'm looking for this book. It came out today, and then I noticed that they have a stack of Survive the Night copies like behind the cash register, like behind where the cashier is standing. I'm like, oh, it's right there. So they didn't even put the books out yet. If I was in charge of that Barnes & Noble and a Riley Sager book was just released that day, the night before I would be setting up a whole Survive the Night like display section. So got this. I also got 2 books. Literally just blind buy books from the horror section for Summerween, but they sounded interesting, so we'll see how it goes. So this book is called If You Go Down to the Woods, and I never heard about it before. However, it is a horror book about a group of 13-year-old boys during the summer, so I was like, ooh, perfect summer vibes. We love a good like It/The Chalk Man type of premise, and they find an old car and a dead body in the woods, and then it says, then the collector arrived. He knew we had found his secret, and suddenly our summer of innocence turned into the stuff of nightmares. Nothing would ever be the same again. So this sounds really interesting. I'm gonna actually use this for the prompt where you read a book with orange and black on the cover, because this, I didn't even realize this when I picked it up. I just picked it up because it sounded interesting and it's fairly short, but it has orange and black on it, so that's going to satisfy that prompt. And then the other one that I picked up, again, another blind buy. By the way, by the time this video gets posted, Summerween is going to be over, so I'm kind of like showing you books that I've already read in the future, because I will be posting this after my Summerween vlogs, but I just want to share anyway. This book called Theme Music, also never heard about it, but somebody blurbed saying the scariest book since The Haunting of Hill House, and this is supposed to be like a supernatural ghost horror, which is going to work for the supernatural horror book prompt. And it's basically about a woman who experienced a really traumatic childhood where her family was murdered, and then she moves back 25 years later, I think, to her like childhood home, trying to like investigate the murders with a detective. But then it says bodies start to pile up beside her, and she thinks that there's an evil force that could be like her father, like her father's ghost, or could be a demon. So I don't know, it sounded kind of interesting. And then when I was looking it up on like Google, it had pretty good reviews and people were saying that this is an excellent debut novel, so I kind of want to give it a chance. I'm kind of in the mood to like read things that are obscure, that not a lot of people know about. So these are going to be some Summerween picks, and I'm gonna go home and start Survive the Night. I'm also gonna get myself a cold brew really quick before I head home so that I can enjoy my book with my cold brew. So I will check in with you guys once I get my cold brew in like 3 seconds. Okay, you guys, I'm back. Got myself cold brew. I'm excited. This looks really good. Oh my god. I feel like the Starbucks people knew that today was the release date of my most anticipated read of the year, because they gave me a really delicious tasting cold brew. It's also 97 degrees outside right now, so I feel like this is just hitting the spot. Okay, but I'm gonna go head home now. My journey for the day is over. I can finally begin reading Survive the Night. I feel like I'm hyping myself up for this book, and I'm hoping that it is just as like amazing as all of the other Riley Sager books. So I will check in with you guys when I have a little bit of reading done, so I can give you my initial thoughts. Okay, so it's a little bit later in the day. It's now like after 5 p.m. Oh my god, it's almost 6. It's 5:40 p.m. and I have read 80 pages of Survive the Night, so I thought it would be a good idea to give you guys a little bit of an update on my initial thoughts of the book. I'm really, really liking it so far. I didn't know that the main character of this book was like a huge cinephile film buff, and that she was a film major, and that she referenced movies all the time. So that's really exciting because I'm a huge film lover, and I even considered like being a film major when I was in college. So it's nice to like have something in common with the main character. So I really like that aspect about it. I also really do like the 90s vibes in this book. We're definitely getting references to 90s movies, 90s music, and just like the overall vibe, the style, the politics, things like that are kind of being dropped in, which makes us feel like we're there in that decade. So I absolutely love that aspect as well. And just for context, because I didn't really explain what this book is about if you are unfamiliar. So this is a thriller novel, and we are following a college student, and she is heading back to her home in the middle of the semester because something happened that was pretty tragic, and she kind of wants to drop out of school and just go home, but she's like still unsure about what her future holds, and she decides to hitchhike or like accept a ride with somebody that she does not know. And along the way, she realizes that the man who's driving her is not who he seems to be or who he has said he is. And she starts to get super paranoid about it because there is a campus killer that has been going around for, you know, a couple of years before she started at her school. So she's starting to suspect that he could be that campus killer. So that's just like the general premise. If you read the description of this book, that is what it explains. I'm not giving any spoilers, and I'm going to try to keep this as spoiler free as possible because I am reading this when the book first came out, and I don't want people to not watch this vlog. Like, you can still watch this and, you know, keep going even if you have not started or read the book. So far I am really enjoying it. I think that Riley Sager is still really excellent at building suspense and like this sense of dread in the situations that he creates. And one thing that I like about this book is that it feels very much like you are getting cliches, but not in a bad way. Like, if you're somebody who reads a lot of thrillers and who watches a lot of thrillers and horror movies, you always find characters that act very dumb and very like naive, and you think like, oh my god, I would not do these things if I were put in the same situation. I would be smarter, or I wouldn't act in this way, or I wouldn't trust these people. I would be more suspicious, I would be more cautious. So I feel like that's definitely a trope that is used often, and I think that Riley Sager at this point is using that trope to his advantage, to the point where it's almost like, okay, he's kind of poking fun at the fact that our character is being a little bit too trusting and not very cautious in like taking this ride with a complete stranger, because there's so many like subtle hints that something is not right with the person who is driving her. And the main character is kind of wondering if she's just being paranoid because of like the recent experience that she had, or if this is actually like her suspicions being true. So I feel like Riley Sager, sorry, I don't like to refer to authors as their first name, but I feel like Riley Sager is definitely like throwing that so that we can all like communally like laugh and say like, oh, she's just falling into the trope of like being a naive thriller character. And it's not done in a way that you're just like cringing. You're kind of like, okay, we know that something is up with this driver, and he's like really throwing it in your face that there are all these hints and clues that the character should be realizing, but she's kind of just like not paying attention to that. I don't know if that made sense, but so far I am really liking this. I am going to keep reading. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that there is a live Zoom session tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, where Riley Sager is doing a Q&A interview type of live session, and I have a link to it because my friend Keely had a link to it because she purchased this book from his website, and so she sent the link along to me so that I can join. So hopefully I'll be able to get in. I have the password and everything, so I'm going to watch that at 8 p.m. and if I can ask some questions or a question, I'll definitely do that. Maybe I'll film a clip of Riley Sager talking about his book, but I'm really excited for that. I'm going to probably make dinner now and then do a little bit more reading before the live Q&A, and I will either update you guys later tonight or I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Okay, it is the next day, you guys. It is now Wednesday. It's like the afternoon, 12:30 almost. I am actually going to my friend's house. I apologize if the AC is like blasting in the background. I hope you guys can hear me. It is like 1,000 degrees, 98 Fahrenheit to be exact, which is very, very hot. I don't know why I don't know why I did this with the sweater. I was trying to be like modest because I'm wearing like a tank top, but I'm probably just gonna have to take my sweater off because I can't even breathe right now. But I did want to come on here, give you guys a little bit of an update. I didn't get too much further in. Well, kind of. I think I was on page 80 the last time I updated you, and now I'm on page 150. I'm still really enjoying this. Let me just unclip my fanny pack. I'm really, really enjoying it. I definitely think that, I mean, yes, Riley Sager is definitely one of my favorite thriller writers of all time, but I do feel like I liked Home Before Dark a little bit more than Survive the Night so far, just because I am more of a horror person more than thriller. And even though Home Before Dark, it like questions whether or not it's horror, whether or not it's supernatural, I do appreciate those horror tropes and elements more so than like thriller. So that's why I think I prefer that one a little bit more. But in terms of like, you know, just reading this as a thriller book, it is really enjoyable. It is super tension filled, and Riley Sager is so good at creating tension in a closed space, because pretty much the whole book takes place during the car ride with our main character and the supposed serial killer. So there's a lot of tension going on between those two characters. She's kind of trying to figure out whether or not he's telling the truth about certain things that he said to her. She's trying to, she's feeling like anxious about being in the car with him because of her suspicions. So it's getting very, like, tense is the best word that I could use to describe it, and I'm definitely like feeling the anxiety from reading this book, so that's always fun and interesting to experience. One thing that I also really enjoy about this book is the fact that our main character is an unreliable narrator, and in this book, this isn't a spoiler, but if you really don't want to know anything about the characters, then, you know, just skip ahead to the next clip. But our main character has a lot of like psychological problems going on because of a lot of the trauma and the tragedies that she's experienced in her past. She imagines scenarios in her head, she hallucinates things from time to time, so there's like this question of whether or not a lot of the suspicions that our main character has are real, or if they are just a product of her imagination and her psychological damage. So that's an interesting like spin to the story, and I think it makes for a very like cinematic type of read, because we're kind of like cutting between like her imagining certain things and then like straight back into reality, and then she's questioning like, wait, did I just like imagine this, or is this actually like real? So I think that that's like a very cool part about this book, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. I also wanted to update you guys about yesterday's Q&A with Riley Sager. It was so nice, so much fun. I have never done one of those before. It was basically like a Zoom webinar session, and Riley Sager was there, and then 2 other people were there interviewing him, and the audience, so like us, we got to ask some questions, and they were choosing some of the questions, and they chose my question. I asked a Disney question because I know that Riley Sager is a huge like Disney fanatic, just like me, just like Keely, just like Elena. Like, we're all huge Disney fans. So they chose my question, and I asked him, what is your favorite Disney movie? Which he said was Mary Poppins. And then I said, what is your favorite Disney World ride? And he was like, oh my God, that's such a good question. And he was like stumped for a good couple of minutes, like just thinking. He ended up giving like 5 answers to the question, like his top 5 rides. He mentioned Splash Mountain, Big Thunder, and most importantly, he referenced our Disney Parks book stack challenge that we did a couple of weeks ago that he participated in. And I was like, oh my God, like I wish I could tell you like that's me. Like me and Keely and Elena created that challenge. I tried to like mention in the chat, but I don't think he noticed. But how cool is that? He answered my question, he loved my question, and he referenced the book tag challenge that we did on Instagram. So that was such a fun experience. Definitely loving this book. I do want to get some more reading done, but like I said, I'm going to my friend's house. We might be like just chilling and then possibly going to our other friend's house to swim. So I probably won't get any reading done until later. So I will update you guys later on. This clip is getting very long, but I'm going to just cut it off in a second. I also got a book package, so I will also open this up when I get home later. So I will check in with you guys later. I said later like 3 times. Okay, bye. So it is now much later on in the day. I'm finally home now, and I was finally able to get some reading done. I'm now, at page 215 of Survive the Night. For a second, I was like losing momentum a little bit with the story because I was starting to feel like, okay, we're stuck in this one scenario type of plot with just 2 characters and like, you know, just the tension and the psychology kind of like propelling us forward with the narrative, which in and of itself is interesting, but I was starting to like worry that the entirety of the book was just going to continue along the same lines, and I was like, how much can we get of this same scenario like over and over again within the next 200 pages or so? And even though I love Riley Sager as an author, I was like kind of concerned that it was just going to push along in the same direction. However, I just reached a point in the novel where things take a little bit of a detour. I'm not going to say anything further because again, I don't want to include any spoilers, but things just got a little bit more interesting. I'm really excited to see now how this feature, this aspect, this element of the book plays out, because I was not expecting it at all. And I feel like part of reading a thriller is that you expect certain twists to happen, and of course reading Riley Sager's books, like, you know there's going to be twists and things that you weren't expecting, but it's just so funny to me how like I feel like Riley Sager focuses on certain things and prioritizes certain things so that you can be distracted by them, so that when reveals happen later on, you truly do not see them coming, even though like they were kind of referenced earlier on, but like you didn't anticipate that thing going in that direction because you were too focused on like the main events that are happening. I don't know if that makes any sense, but to me it does, because that's exactly how I feel. I feel like I was blindsided by, you know, whatever was going on with the main event, that I didn't expect something else to occur. So that is where I'm at. One thing that I'm just like kind of iffy about, and I'm like not sure how I feel about this aspect of the book, is that psychosis part of Charlie's character. I know I discussed this a little bit yesterday, and I said I was really intrigued by the fact that she kind of hallucinates and like imagines scenarios in her mind, and that makes for the plot to be more interesting. But at this point, I feel like it's been used multiple times now that I'm kind of like, okay, like I hope it doesn't keep happening to the point where we're just like led on to believe things are happening only for like them to be cut short and for it to be like, no, she was just imagining it, right? So I'm hoping like at the end of this book isn't like the whole thing was just a dream within a dream, or like one big hallucination. I hate when books and movies do that. I feel like it's just such a cop-out. I know Riley Sager will not do that because it's Riley Sager, but you know, I still have that like little bit of hesitance about that aspect of the book. Other than that, I'm really, really enjoying it. I have a little bit over 100 pages left to go with this, so I'm planning on continuing to read some more tonight, and then I will most likely be finishing off with it tomorrow. So I will check in with you guys most likely tomorrow. Hello friends, it is now the next day. It is Thursday, and I'm here to give you guys my final thoughts on Survive the Night. I did end up finishing this book this morning, so it took me about like 2.5 days to read it, and I did really like it. I think that Riley Sager he never disappoints when it comes to thrills, when it comes to suspense, when it comes to his character writing. I think that that is really like what makes Riley Sager stand out in terms of like the thriller genre. I feel like he really pays attention to little quirks and details that his characters have, and it makes for a much more enjoyable and a much more interesting reading experience rather than just relying on the action and the plot alone. Because I do feel like in a lot of horror and thriller books, that's really like what people are drawn to, is just what is happening, what is the story about, what are the action sequences, you know, what is the plot going to be. And I'm definitely one of those people who is driven by plot and who prefers more of like a plot driven story rather than a character driven story. But I think that there's a nice balance in Riley Sager's books that really allow you to enjoy his writing even more. So that's kind of like how I felt about this book. I do have to say that having read all of Riley Sager's books at this point in his career, it's definitely not my favorite of Riley Sager's books. I mean, all of his books cannot be favorites, right? You have to like separate your top tier from like the other ones, and I think that Survive the Night is an excellent read, and I highly recommend it, and I really did enjoy my experience reading this book, so you know, definitely pick it up. And when I say that it's not my favorite Riley Sager book, I don't by any means think that it's not a good book, because it's really, really fun, and it's really, really suspenseful, really intriguing. I think in terms of like what I wanted more from this book is just like the darkness factor. I feel like Home Before Dark, Lock Every Door, and even The Last Time I Lied all have like such a dark vibe to it. And yes, Survive the Night is a dark story, it's a thriller. I mean, obviously there's murder, there's crime, there's like crazy things going on, but I just really liked the darkness of his last 3 novels more than what we got in Survive the Night. And one thing that I noticed in Survive the Night is as I was reading it, I was starting to make certain theories and predictions about where the plot was headed, and I guessed a couple of things correctly. I mean, I'm usually the type of person who can see like where things are going and like predict certain things that are going to happen in thrillers. So I did find that some of the reveals towards the end felt a little bit predictable. They kind of felt like the only option that like Riley Sager could go to in terms of like where things were headed. So that is one thing that I kind of wish was done differently. I'm so used to Riley Sager throwing us these curveballs and these reveals that I just like am floored by. So like the fact that I was able to kind of like figure things out, I was a little bit disappointed by that aspect, but still I think that this was a wonderful, phenomenal read. I think this is a great summer read. For some reason, I thought this book actually took place during the 4th of July like weekend. I don't know why I thought I had read that somewhere when it was first being announced, but it does not take place in the summer. It actually takes place in November, like the November into December Thanksgiving season. So I was like kind of surprised by that. I do wish that it took place in the summer because I was looking for like a summer vibe atmosphere, but I honestly still enjoyed this. Even though I am a huge like seasonal reader, I still felt like this packed in enough for me to enjoy it without feeling like it wasn't quite fitting with my environment and my atmosphere. So that was one thing that was a little bit different than I expected, but definitely just like the twists at the end I wish were not as predictable because I did see them coming. However, other than that, I felt like this was a really original way to do kind of like a locked in thriller where you're basically like stuck in one setting for all or most of the story. The tension was there, the characters, as I said earlier, were there, and just the fact that we had this unreliable narrator as our main character, and the way that Riley Sager used film and like the concept of like psychology and like hallucinations and like envisioning certain scenarios in your mind, I thought that that was done really well and that was really original about this story. So I did like those aspects, and I'm so excited for Riley Sager's next book. So when we were doing the Q&A with him on Tuesday, he was talking about how he has already sent out his next book. He couldn't talk about it, so I don't know anything about it. I can't like tell you guys any like you know, plot points or details. I don't know anything about it, but I'm definitely going to pick it up. I'm definitely going to read it. It's definitely going to be one of my most anticipated reads of next year, so that's really exciting. He said that it's intense. He's like, you guys, the next book is crazy, it's insane, and I was like, I'm so ready for that. I hope that he goes back to a little bit more of like the horror, darker elements that he had in Home Before Dark and Lock Every Door. I'm really, really hoping he goes back to that vibe. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think I would rate this book 4 out of 5 stars, even though I had some like expectations that were not totally met. I still think that he's like top tier when it comes to thriller writers during our time. So totally enjoyed the experience. And one thing I wanted to note, there was like a line on page 300. It's not a spoiler, but it was like a nod to some classic horror films. It says, in that moment, she understands that she's in charge of her own destiny. She's Ellen Ripley, she's Laurie Strode, she's Clarice Starling. I was like, all my faves. Like, we love an author who loves movies and who incorporates film references in their book. This was just like a film lover's dream right here. And then at the end, in Riley Sager's acknowledgements, I really like that he, you know, of course thanked the people who helped him to write the book, but also he said, to the filmmakers whose work inspires me and that I return to again and again. Alfred Hitchcock, Orson Welles, Billy Wilder, Steven Spielberg, David Fincher, Vincent Minnelli, Wes Craven, Brian De Palma, and Walt Disney. Like, oof, that was just like, I had chills when I was reading that because, I don't know, I just like fellow film lovers, we just like have this like bond, and like when you see your favorite director's name or like a little nod to like one of your favorite films, it just like brings this source of comfort to you. So that's definitely what I felt throughout reading this book. So yeah, that is it for this vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know down below if you have already read Survive the Night or if you're planning on reading it. I hope you guys do. Remember, this is our July buddy read pick for Camp Spooky, so please make sure you pick it up this month and you join us at the end of this month for our live discussion. I don't know the date or the time yet for that. It will be announced on Instagram sometime soon, but I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys soon, tomorrow actually, because tomorrow's the start of Summerween, but I will see you in my next video, and I hope that everybody has a wonderful day today. Bye guys!